Hey, hello again. Well, I'm out here gonna take a hike along one of my favorite trails, the Huckleberry Creek Trail. It's about an hour away from where I live. It's a beautiful late October day. We've got some pretty fall colors coming along. There's a real chill in the air, some frost on the ground, but nice and bright and sunny and dry. The road up here is pretty rough. Forest Road, 7300. It's got a lot of potholes, a lot of deep potholes. So if you're driving up, be careful. Make sure you have a vehicle that can handle the ruts in the road. That is slippery. This little trail has about everything that a hike in the Cascades can offer, except for maybe some really wide open mountain views. It doesn't have that, at least not in the first few miles. If you hike enough, you get into Mount Rainier National Park, and then you get some views. But it's got a little walk along Huckleberry Creek, which is pretty. It's got some different deciduous trees, birches and alders. Lots of pine and fir, of course. That's really pretty, isn't it? I might have to come back here. Nice wide spot. Should be some pretty light on it all day long. Nice rapids. But I'm gonna keep walking a bit. And yes, there are huckleberry growing along the creek. If you hit the trail at the right time, I think August or September are about the best time to find some nice ripe huckleberry. I've also found a lot of edible mushrooms along this trail. Chanterelles and porcini oyster. But there are portions of it where it really gets into deep old growth, and you almost feel like you're in a Hayao Miyazaki movie, like Princess Mononoke. This looks like it might be a little bit slippery. There's some ice on the trail, so I'm going to be careful. Very slippery. I'm going to put the camera down so I can make sure I cross this safely. Well, here's where I'm going to stop and paint. It's a little bit off of the beaten track. I found like an elk trail leading off into the trees a bit through some underbrush. And there's a nice wide spot here to stand. That's roughly south. Since it's late in the year, the sun is staying low in the sky in the south here in the Pacific Northwest. So the sun is going to travel that way across the scene. And what I'm thinking of painting is that beautiful fir tree right on the edge of the river. I really like the pattern of the branches. They're on one side of the tree, kind of sweeping down toward the river. I like how the bank on the far side of the river is kind of a warm gray. I think it makes an interesting contrast with the deep green red of the river and the warm trunk of the pine tree, the fir tree. I'm also hoping that as the sun travels across the scene, it's going to hit some of those, I think those are birch trees with the white bark on the other side of the river. I'm hoping that the sun will pick out some highlights on those birch trees, which will make a kind of a neat pattern. I'm gonna look around a little bit, have a cup of coffee, and try to figure out where I'm going to stand and what I'm going to paint. There's a lot here. As you can see, it's a really beautiful but complicated scene. There's a lot to pick and choose from. I mean, I could stand here as well. This is beautiful. I could borrow this tree that I like, and I could place it here instead. I can see them both easily from here. That way I have a little bit of a view of the rapids in the water, which I like. And I still have that beautiful warm gray bank on the other side of the river, which I can simplify into kind of an abstract color field. Well, I'm gonna look around a little bit and have a cup of coffee. I'm sorry I'm slurring my speech a little bit. The air is so cold here that I feel like my cheeks are frozen. So it's making my speech come out a little bit slurred. I'm not drunk, honestly. I haven't been drinking this morning. Although with election day coming up, I feel like I should start drinking. This is a beautiful view here as well. Now that is really beautiful, especially right now at this moment. Those white rapids, the far bank of the river lit up. All right, I'm gonna snap some pictures and try to make up my mind here. As always, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy these videos. I really enjoy when I get some comments from you all and get your feedback. It's really fun and really helpful. So if you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let your friends know. And if you keep watching them, I'll keep making them. Okay, you can see I have a little bit of a sketch, a really quick sketch in charcoal on my 9x12 panel. I've decided on a portrait orientation, and I used my little iPhone trick to do the composition and the sketch really quick. The light is changing quite a bit. I'm under some tall trees here, and the light is going across the scene, so I'm not sure what I'm going to get. I'm going to keep my eyes open as I'm painting and try to capture the best moment. First though, I'll just start with a turpentine wash. That's where I dilute some paint heavily with artist turpentine and just kind of scrub in a tone for the scene. Out in the scene, I'm seeing a lot of greens, of course. It's the Pacific Northwest and in a forest, but under all that, I'm seeing a lot of red, which is nice. I think it'll be a nice contrast. So primarily I'm going to use burnt sienna as my underpainting. I'll tip it a little bit toward yellow in that far background to kind of gray it out a bit. I'll tip it toward alizarin crimson as it comes closer to me, and maybe even a little bit of cad red, cad yellow to make some delineation, to make some difference between the rocks and the river so that I can follow that as I paint. I'm kind of keeping in the back of my mind too what will be a good complement. Meaning if the final color is going to be a pretty almost phthalo green, like where the water is pooling under the rapids, there's a very beautiful phthalo green color, then if I go with a nice vibrant red around that, if I go with a green, a phthalo green, very grayed out phthalo green for that pool, and everything around it is kind of a vibrant red, that's going to be a nice complement. So for the bed of the river, I think I want to use cad red so that I get that nice contrast in the final painting. Also in the rapids, I can see some alizarin crimson. So I may use a little bit of alizarin crimson in the underpainting just to mark out where I'm seeing the rapids in the scene. So first step, I'll very quickly go in with a turpentine wash. I'll let it kind of spill and flow across the panel. I'm careful not to make a mess in the forest. I don't want to get my paints or my chemicals, my solvent on the forest, so I make sure that any drips fall on my palette, and I make sure I pack away all my paper towels and leave the scene just as pretty as I found it. It's very frustrating when you're out hiking and you come across someone that threw down a piece of toilet paper or an old can. Why are they coming out here to enjoy this beautiful nature if they're just going to leave their trash here? I just don't get it. So I'm very careful not to leave any little bit of trash. In fact, I often pick up any trash that I see and cart it out with me. Okay, there's the turpentine wash end, and I actually took that same big brush with some turpentine and wiped out some of the rapids to make a little bit of a value pattern. I'll let that set up just a little bit. I'll wipe out the rapids just a little bit more. Those are the lightest things in the scene. I may also kind of draw a few of those trees across the bank that are getting a little bit of light as well to catch some highlights. And then I'll start to mix up the final colors. Sun's going behind the hill over there. It's getting to be a little deeper shade, so I'm going to have to move quickly or it's going to become too dark here in these trees to mix up the colors. Okay, I have some colors mixed up now. I've got some grays, yellowish lightest gray to kind of a green and purple gray for that far hillside. Then I have this for the far bank, deepest shadow. This for the dark red water I'm seeing. And these are some shades of warm green and cool green for the flowing water. And then here is also for the band of light when it hits that water. It's picking up the warm sandy bed of the river or of the creek when the sun is hitting it, so I want to capture that as well. These are not the lightest values. I'll wait until the very last to fill those. Those will be the lightest values will be the foam on the rapids. All right, well, I'm gonna call that good. It's not finished. It's very rough. I'm not too happy with it, to be honest. It kind of got away from me. I think because it's so dark here, it's hard to tell now from the video, but it's really dark here under the trees. Very hard to judge color and value. So my instinct is to scrape it down, to be honest. I'm a little bit frustrated. It didn't go like I had planned. But I'm not going to. I'm going to take it back to the studio and take a look at it again in some better light. And maybe there's something I can salvage there. They don't always work out. You know, sometimes it's an experiment and it just doesn't work, and it's not worth trying to fight it to make it work. But I'll take it back and I'll see what I think after I warm up. It's really cold here in the shade too. And I'm not trying to complain. I actually had a really nice hike today and a really nice time. And this is always a challenge. Part of plein air painting is the challenge of it. Can you wrestle with the elements? Can you wrestle with a really complicated scene like this and create something? And they don't always work. So there you have it. We'll see if I do anything with it or if I just scrape it down and use the panel for a different painting another day. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Hope you had fun watching the process, and I really recommend getting out in the woods. It's beautiful out here. It's relaxing. The sound of the water, the smells, the sights, and the act of being creative. It's a lot of fun. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the trail.